What is up, guys? This is Alex from Double Move Sports, back with another perfect off-season video. This series has been incredibly fun, where I basically take a team, I look at their projected cap space, the free agents that they have, and free agents on the open market, along with draft capital, to look at what would be the perfect offseason for this team heading into the 2021 season, whether they are looking to rebuild or to compete. Today I'm getting into the Dallas Cowboys. This one is going to be a ton of fun, but before I get into it, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, drop down in the comments below who you want to see me break down next. But let's get into this Dallas Cowboys team. And this Cowboys team is coming off of an incredibly disappointing 6-10 season. And the storylines for Dallas were a bad defense and the injury to Dak Prescott. And honestly, Dak Prescott's free agency is the big question for Dallas this offseason. It really sets the tone for what this Cowboys team is going to look like moving forward. But before we get into the Cowboys free agency and beyond in this video, let's look at cap space. Right now, it looks like the Cowboys have around $22 million of projected cap space. There are still some rumors floating around for where that final cap number will end up, so it could be slightly above or below, but for this video, we're going to operate off the assumption of $22 million. So with that being said, with Dak Prescott being a free agent, it's going to be tough to get a lot more significant moves done, but some contract restructuring and things like that could help lift that $22 million a little bit higher. So keep that in mind as we break down some of these guys. But first, we'll start with the Cowboys free agents. I'll throw them on the screen here. They have Dak Prescott at quarterback. They have Tyrone Crawford, Sean Lee, Andy Dalton, Cameron Irving, Joe Looney, Aldon Smith, Chidobe Awuzie, I hope I didn't butcher that name, Jordan Lewis, and Xavier Woods. They do have additional depth pieces and things like that, players like that are free agents, but I really just wanted to get into some of the key names here for Dallas. And we're just going to go down this list one by one and talk about whether the Cowboys in this perfect offseason scenario will be bringing back each of these players or letting them go in free agency. So first, we'll start with Dak Prescott. This is the big one, and this one is so obvious to me. I don't know why the Cowboys have waited this long, but you've got to re-sign Dak Prescott to a long-term extension. He is the future of this franchise. He is so dynamic with this offense. You have a great offense in place with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver, with Zeke at running back, with a strong offensive line that's battled some injuries and is getting a little bit older, but still a very strong offensive line when healthy. So you have to bring back Dak Prescott, structure the deal in a way that defers some of this cap hit to later years to add some more flexibility for right now. And to me, that is number one priority first and foremost. Honestly, number two and number three priority as well for Dallas is to get Prescott back. But moving down this list, Tyrone Crawford, you can let him go. Honestly, if he doesn't retire, he needs to be let go. He has battled injuries. He hasn't produced over the past several seasons, so you need to part ways with him. Then you got Sean Lee at outside linebacker, and he has had some great moments in Dallas, but he cannot stay on the field. He just cannot stay healthy, so he needs to go as well. Andy Dalton at quarterback, he played decent in 2020, but Dallas can get a more affordable backup quarterback moving forward. It was obvious that Andy Dalton isn't taking this Cowboys team to a Super Bowl if Dak Prescott were to go down again. So you move on from Andy Dalton in this scenario. Next on the list is Cameron Irving at tackle. You can let him go. You have two strong veteran tackles and some younger depth at the position. I know there have been some injuries there, but we are going to continue to overinvest in this offensive line in this video. So Cameron Irving will be let go. And that brings us to another lineman on this list, Joe Looney at center. You can bring him back on a small deal. He's a versatile interior lineman that can play both the guard and the center position. With Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Lyle Collins all dealing with recent injuries, some depth and flexibility will be important on this offensive line, and Joe Looney provides that. On down the list to more of the defensive side of the ball. This Cowboys defense needs, honestly, a complete overhaul, so we are going to keep a couple pieces, but we're going to let a lot of these defenders go as well. But Aldon Smith, I think you can actually bring back on a small 1 to 2 year deal if he has a low price tag, which I expect. He gave the Cowboys some good production last season, had 5 sacks. So I think Aldon Smith can come back as a strong pass rusher for this Cowboys defensive unit. And now we'll get into these secondary pieces. The secondary was awful last season for Dallas. It was terrible. But Chidobe Awuzie, I think you bring him back because you can't get rid of everyone. You can bring him back on a small deal to keep some continuity on the defensive side of the ball. But with that being said, Jordan Lewis is going to be let go, and Xavier Woods is going to be let go. In this scenario, you can find better playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Again, the Cowboys secondary was not good last season. I think you can address it in the draft, in free agency, in creative ways to get some new personnel on defense. So really quickly, let's recap these free agents. We are going to re-sign Dak Prescott, Joe Looney, Aldon Smith, and Chidobe Awuzie. We are going to let go of Tyrone Crawford, Sean Lee, Andy Dalton, Cameron Irving, Jordan Lewis, and Xavier Woods. Now, with that being said, I know Dak Prescott's extension is going to be a cap liability. Hopefully, the Cowboys can structure that in a way to leave them a little bit of wiggle room to not get necessarily a top-tier free agent, but some help on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. So we are just going to look at one position here and one name, and it's the safety spot. We let go of Xavier Woods as far as our own re-signings go here, and we're going to need a safety to come in and take his place. And the guy is Malik Hooker, and I think this could be actually a fairly affordable deal for Dallas. It's one that could make a lot of sense. He's a talented safety. He was a first-round pick. He's still in his mid-20s, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries so far in his career. He's currently coming off of an Achilles injury, so there's a lot of risks associated with Malik Hooker. By no means is he a sure thing, but with all that being said, the Cowboys could sign him to a small, short, inexpensive, prove-it type deal. And if he's clearly not back to form, the Cowboys can move on easily. But if Malik Hooker comes back out, he's healthy, he's making plays, he could be a great safety to boost the secondary in Dallas. So Malik Hooker is the big free agent pickup in this perfect offseason scenario. I know they will sign some depth pieces on both sides of the ball in free agency as well, but I just want to talk about the notable names, and for this situation, it's going to be Malik Hooker. Last but not least, let's move on to the Cowboys draft. They do have some decent draft capital. They have pick 10 in round 1. In round 2, they have pick 42. In round 3, pick 74. And also in round 3, pick 99. They have picks in rounds 4 through 7 as well. Before this video, we're just going to address rounds 1, 2, and 3. Guys that have a higher chance at being playmakers and impact guys right off the bat. And we're going to start out in round 1, pick 10. We are going to address that cornerback spot. The pick here is Patrick Surtain Jr., cornerback out of Alabama. Here, the Cowboys would get the top cornerback in this class who was an absolute stud in college. He can match up against big wide receivers very, very well, and this would give Dallas a true top-flight #1 cornerback as they rebuild this defense. This would be a no-brainer at the 10th overall pick. The biggest question here would be, is Surtain going to be available at pick 10? But with this being the perfect scenario of the offseason for Dallas, we are going to assume that several quarterbacks go in that top 10, and Surtain falls into the Cowboys' laps here to give them that stud cornerback. Now, moving on to round 2, pick 42, I alluded earlier to continuing to overinvest in this offensive line. So the pick here is Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle out of Texas. And I know you might be thinking, why would they do that with Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins on that offensive line? I just think if you bring Dak Prescott back on a long-term deal, you want to get some flexibility on the offensive line. Tyron Smith is getting older. He's dealt with injuries. Lyle Collins has dealt with injuries. And the Cowboys could at least bring in some young talent here to not only be a replacement in the future on this offensive line, but make an impact right off the bat. He's going to be more affordable as well if you get into the bigger years of Dak's contract and you want to offset some of that salary with a cheaper offensive tackle on a rookie deal. Sam Cosmi could help looking into, not even next year, but beyond that. So that is the pick here in round 2. And really quickly, we'll hit on the 2 round 3 selections. This is where we're really going to dig back into that defense. At pick 74, we're going to go with Shaka Toney, edge rusher out of Penn State. He's an explosive guy that can add depth and athleticism to the Dallas defense right away. He could be a very meaningful pickup on day 2. He replaces Tyrone Crawford on this defense, can give them some spark production, so that will help their pass rush, along with bringing back Aldon Smith on the other side. And then at round 3, pick 99, we are going to go with Jared Goldwire, defensive tackle out of Louisville. This gives the Cowboys even more defensive help. He's a run-stopping defensive tackle that has the potential to add more to his game. He is absolutely massive, and he could be used rotationally early on in his career as he continues to develop into a full-time defensive tackle. So really quickly, before we sign off here, we are going to recap every single move we made here for this Dallas Cowboys team, starting with their own free agents. We're going to bring back Dak Prescott on a long-term extension, not a franchise tag. We're going to bring back Joe Looney, Aldon Smith, and Chidobe Awuzie. We're going to let go of Tyrone Crawford, Sean Lee, Andy Dalton, Cameron Irving, Jordan Lewis, and Xavier Woods. Then looking to free agency, we are going to sign safety Malik Hooker on a small prove-it deal coming off of some of his injuries. And then in the NFL draft, we are going to bring in Patrick Surtain Jr. at cornerback, Sam Cosmi at offensive tackle, Shaka Toney as an edge rusher, and Jared Goldwire at defensive tackle. The Cowboys will have additional picks in rounds 4 through 7 as well to address additional needs. But for the purpose of this video, we're not going to get into each and every selection. So that is going to do it. I want to know in the comments down below what you think of this video. What would you do differently? What do you think I hit on here? Also hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I also want to know what teams you want to see me break down next. We've done a lot on the channel, but I'm continuing to roll through these videos. They've been a lot of fun. But again, this is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.